Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Niasim. Hope you are great. I am sure majority of you may have heard news and all that spreading about Pe0ple, how he ordered his military to do what they did to people in Venezuela. They struck and it hits people. People were unalive, right? And people are calling him out for committing war crime. See, let me tell you something. That thing is not war crime. War crime is nobody has ever declared war between Venezuela and United States of America. Congress did not say anything. There is nothing like war going on. What he did is murder. He unalived people for no reason. There was no reason for the strike or whatever he ordered for people to do. And to my greatest surprise, the head of the government is distancing himself from what is going on. One thing I want to tell you is that Pe0ple will go to jail. And that is on period. He will go to jail. It might not happen today, but eventually. And not just only him, all of them. You see this administration and the crime they've been committing, all of them will go to jail. Because the world is watching United States of America and the things that they've been doing recently. You know, one of the reasons why they are trying as much as they can to maintain the next term, it is because they know that they will go to jail. Stephen Bannon has confirmed it. He knew. Let's get into this video.
Pe0ple is going to jail. And when it finally happens, I want everybody to come back to this video and just say, you were right. A couple of things are taking place. Congress is finally deciding to do their job of oversight for this administration that has ignored the rule of law, be it domestically or internationally. And they are looking into what the Department of Defense did with these boats that they attacked in the Caribbean. They're asking them, can you prove that these were drug traffickers? And even if they were drug traffickers, the penalty for that is not war. It's not targeting these boats with military action, denying them due process. So because Pete can't verify if these were even drug traffickers and these possibly were civilians, and it clearly appears that he decided to eliminate any witnesses, because if people lived, if there were civilians that lived to tell the story and say no one on that boat was a drug trafficker, these were all civilians, then the lies that they consistently tell you to demonize Latinos would make no sense. If these were civilians and the United States government, the Department of Defense, were targeting civilians that weren't even coming to the United States, they were just doing their jobs fishing. It also explains why Trump is trying to invade Venezuela. The Venezuelan government can gather evidence on these people that were killed by the United States government in these airstrikes on these boats, talking to the families, talking to the industry that they were attached to, proving in the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court that these people were just civilians that the United States killed for no fucking reason. So of course Trump is going to do everything in his power to try to get a loyalist into that office, because that will kill any investigation done to unmask the truth. And this is not even me ignoring the nuances of what's happening in Venezuela, because that man in charge of Venezuela is also targeting civilians. You know, I don't believe in these black and white arguments that a lot of people online believe in. There are nuances to these things that should be examined. So what's currently happening in Congress is a bipartisan inquiry into Pe0ple in the Department of Defense is taking shape. And what will end up happening is Donald Trump will probably fire him and he will go to jail. He will go to jail. It might not happen now because Donald Trump will do everything in his power to protect him, but it will definitely happen in the future. Just give it some time. Just give it some time. All of these people, a lot of these people attached to the Trump administration are going to jail. That includes the ICE director. That includes the Homeland Security director. All of these people are going to.
We have some news right now. Donald Trump seems to be setting up everything to blame Pe0ple for the war crimes murder in the Southern Caribbean. Since the bombshell Washington Post story was released earlier this week, Donald Trump has taken steps to distance himself from the action that was taken. He said that, well, he wouldn't have done a double strike. The second strike he said he wouldn't have done. He then went on to say that Pete Hegseth said that it never happened. He also said that they're going to get to the bottom of it, seemingly suggesting that they're going to have some type of internal investigation into the strike. To me, what that says is, well, everything's going to be Pete Hegseth's fault if there was a double strike, or a double tap strike is what it's officially called. And well, Donald Trump is going to say from the beginning, I was not a supporter of this. One problem for Trump: he's the commander-in-chief. And I'm not sure what's worse, the fact that he says he doesn't know what happened in the Southern Caribbean where the military is launching missiles at boats, or that he does know, is feigning ignorance, and is preparing to lay his Secretary of Defense out to dry. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Spread the word, follow along. We have some news right now. Donald Trump seems to be setting up everything to blame Pete Hegseth.
Now, I saw this video after I did my video, and I'm glad I'm not the only person that's seeing this. And the reason why is because if you've been in New York and you have been abreast to how Trump operates for as long as we've been, knowledgeable of this man's actions, he would sacrifice his children if it meant protecting his ass. So it's very easy for him to pretend that he didn't know anything and throw Pete under the bus. He doesn't know Pete like that. He just views Pete as a useful idiot, right? Someone that used to kiss his ass. And when it comes to Trump, he'll throw those people away like they're nothing, because they truly are nothing.
Allow me to paint a clearer picture for you. Pete Hegseth is going to prison. Let me say it again. Pete Hegseth is going to prison. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, maybe not in the next 3 years, but at some point, Pete Hegseth will serve prison time. He is committing war crimes. War crimes are something that Yahtzees were held accountable for. Okay? That's the level we're talking about. In relation to that, I want to ask the open-ended question: why would our president take to the internet today and exclaim that the Venezuelan airspace should be considered closed, indicating that the United States might strike Venezuela in light of recent rumors that we were going to go in by land or sea or something like that? Why would he do that? Because Pete Hegseth is committing war crimes by saying things like kill them all. When we're talking about human beings in boats, not verifying who they are, not verifying if they have drugs on board, etc. He's just killing people on boats in the ocean. That is a problem. That is illegal. That is a war crime. That is something that the Yahtzees were held on trial and ultimately for. Donald Trump is making you look over there when you need to be looking over here. And on top of that, he has like narcissistic rage right now because he can't fire Pete Hegseth. Why can't he fire Pete Hegseth? Because then he would have to admit that his pick was wrong. And narcissists, they can never admit that they are wrong. So they're just gonna like ride this wave, throw a bunch of chaotic statements out there. I would expect this week coming up for Donald Trump to escalate in his insanity, all for the sake of, I don't know, exclaiming that he's right when he knows he's not. Just take a beat, take a breath. And when you're worried, remind yourself Pete Hegseth will go to prison, for sure.
Major breaking news this morning: Pete Hegseth, along with the United States military, are now possibly going to be put under congressional investigation over their doubling down over the strikes in the Southern Caribbean that has killed numerous people. Now the public knows back in early September that the United States military under Pete Hegseth most likely literally violated the international laws of war, because that boat in early September had 11 people on it coming out of Venezuela, right, the Southern Caribbean. Pete Hegseth ordered the first strike, which killed all 9 on board, but there was 11 total, and it only killed all 9. There was two men hanging on the side of the boat while it's burning after the first strike. Now, in the rules of the war, You are not supposed to strike again if they do not pose a threat to you or your nation, or however the exact verbiage is, but you get the point. They don't pose a threat. Pete Hegseth then ordered to kill them all. Kill them all. That is what he is being put under investigation for, because he ordered the United States military to kill them all. Conducting a second strike, killing the last 2 people that were clinging on the side of the burning boat. Obviously, they pose no harm to the United States military. Instead, he still ordered the strike anyway. And Trump this morning on his Truth Social said, to all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider their airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. That was this morning. So before Congress even has time to try to investigate Pete Hegseth, to try to investigate the United States military, Donald Trump is still hurling threats and closing down a different nation's airspace. How is that even possible? Are you saying it's okay if China came over and said, effective immediately, the airspace above and around the United States are now closed?
So a group of lawyers today have gotten together and accused the Trump administration of war crimes and murder. In response to this, Democrats and Republicans have gotten together and, I quote, have launched a vigorous investigation into these claims. So let's get into it. So Pete Hegseth is Donald Trump's Secretary of War, and Mr. Hegseth has basically told the U.S. military to bomb suspected drug traffickers off of the Southern Caribbean, okay? Well, in September, one of these operations didn't go as planned, and after they bombed a boat, 2 men were left alive but unconscious, on dangling off the side of this now blown up boat. Hegseth tells the military to kill them all, and the military launches a second bomb to kill these 2 men who are wading in the water, basically no threat to the United States anymore. So now a bunch of ex-military lawyers have gotten together and concluded that this could be a war crime if we are in an international conflict, and if we aren't, then it's simply murder. And Pete Hegseth, as well as everyone who followed his command, could be charged with murder. Since filming this video, both Democratic and Republican members in Congress and the Senate have come forward and said that they are launching their own investigations into these crimes to find out if there is any legal bearing there. Truthfully, I have no hope in this, because Donald Trump and his regime has been able to get away with almost everything, but I will keep you updated.
Okay, listen up, because this is important. Pete Hegseth is not a war criminal. I understand why a lot of people are saying that, but it is not a helpful way to talk about what's going on. The reason why this is not helpful is because if you call him a war criminal, you are accepting the Trump administration's premise that we are a country at war when we are not. There is no authorized use of military force. Even Trump's own Office of Legal Counsel, the OLC, which is putting out whatever Trump wants, hasn't put anything in writing that justifies this kind of thing. Will Pete Hegseth be a war criminal? Maybe. Because if you've been paying attention to the news, you understand that Pete Hegseth and the Trump administration want to invade Venezuela. If not invade, at least use traditional military force to decapitate their government, which would cause a massive amount of chaos throughout all of Latin America. Let me make it clear for the MAGA morons who might be watching this video, even though there's just a few of you. I'm not saying that Maduro's a good guy. He's not a good guy. He is an authoritarian just like Donald Trump. That's why I don't like him. Maduro engages in extrajudicial killings. Maduro also disappears people. But back to Hegseth. Hegseth ordering a double tap, that is, hitting a target once and then hitting it a second time to ensure that you've eliminated all of the survivors, is illegal, no matter what. Now, in addition to Pete Hegseth, and this is also important, everyone throughout that chain of command who authorized that second strike especially, they also committed murder or engaged in a conspiracy to commit murder. And all of them are subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And that includes any civilians who may be working with special operations or the Navy to facilitate this kind of thing. Remember how just like 2 weeks ago, Donald Trump was calling for a bunch of Democrats who served in the military or in the CIA to be tried for sedition, which he emphasizes the penalty could include execution? Well, they were right. Everyone who serves in the military, from the very top to the very bottom, knows that it is your duty, your legal responsibility to refuse illegal or unlawful orders. Now, I think we all know that we can expect Donald Trump to issue a pardon for everybody up and down the chain. But we, the people, we shouldn't decide that prosecutions and investigations are unnecessary because Donald Trump will ultimately make sure that every one of his co-conspirators get away with it. We still have to exercise as if this democracy still works. And if the pardons are issued, we don't ultimately lose. If the pardons are issued, it is because we are still doing the right thing. We are still working to protect justice. And every time that Donald Trump goes out and does something that's so egregious that even MAGA is horrified by it, it weakens his coalition. And look, I know that Democrats might be a little skeptical or gun-shy about impeachment, but Donald Trump can't issue pardons to save himself or anyone else from being impeached. And that includes Pete Hegseth. And let me tell you, it would be a fuckload easier to impeach Pete Hegseth if Donald Trump issues him a pardon. So let's do our democratic duty, call for investigations, make sure that we've got all of the facts. Congress needs to fulfill its role. And let's put the pressure on the Republicans to impeach the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. Donald Trump doesn't have loyalty to anyone. You have never seen him maintain loyalty to anyone when they get too expensive for him. So he will eventually dispose of Pete Hegseth. And the world will be a safer place without Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense.
Criminals, barbarians, complete animals. Should Pete Kegsbreath Hegseth be charged with a crime for ordering the unaliving of the Venezuelan survivors? The Venezuelan boat we're not under war here in the United States. We're not in war with the Venezuelans. So why would you unalive citizens? This story even says that even Donald Trump may not be able to save Pete Kegsbreath. Unalive them all. That was the order. Unalive them all. Justice will be served on this. Barbarian. It should be. Let me know in the comments what you think.
All right, folks. Long weekend. So here is some more information. If you have not already heard about it, Pete Hegseth and his order to take the lives of those on these boats. Let's talk about it, shall we? So stop whatever you're doing and let's talk about it really quick. I'll try to make it as quickly as possible because what I'm about to tell you is not only outrageous, I'm reading it here, is dangerous. And let me go ahead and cite my sources before I get called out. It's in The Guardian, military.com, The Daily Beast, and The Washington Post. Of course, I had to research this further before I even said anything about it. So here it goes. Let's get straight to the heart of what kind of country we're becoming right now. And I don't know how I feel about this. So while folks have been, doing all the things and enjoying their holiday and so forth, and I've been trying to fall back from giving news and information during this time, the Washington Post dropped a bombshell. You ready? And when I say bombshell, this is literally career-ending, internationally illegal Geneva Convention level bombshell. You ready? So according to multiple sources inside the Pentagon, Secretary Pete Hegseth, the man currently running the entire U.S. military, allegedly gave a verbal order to Special Operation Forces, including SEAL Team 6, to, quote, kill everybody aboard a drug smuggling boat in the Caribbean. Let me say that again. Kill everybody. Not capture, not disarm, not detain, but eliminate every living person, including the ones clinging to the wreckage after the first strike. So here's what's known. The Post reports that survivors were visible, alive, and hanging on to debris. And instead of allowing a lawful capture, the order was, hit it again. That second strike reportedly killed their survivors. So let's talk about why this is explosive, folks. Legal experts, including former SEAL commanders and national security prosecutors, are calling this what it is: a patently illegal order, a violation of U.S. law, the laws of war, and the Geneva Conventions. What does this mean? This is the very definition of an extrajudicial killing, a no survivals director, a war crime. So Congress has already announced oversight hearings. Human rights organizations are alarmed. International partners are watching. And the Pentagon supposedly is scrambling to deny or downplay what happened. But here's the real danger. And here's what should scare every single one of us. If this reporting is true, if it is, then the U.S. military force, one of the most powerful tools on the planet, was used not under the rule of law, but under the whim of one man. That's a problem. Because this is bigger than politics. This is about whether America stays a nation of laws or slides into a place where kill them all is considered legitimate national policy. And you should be pissed off. So I'm going to continue to keep following this, and thank you so much, and big shout out to those people in the neighborhood who are sharing this information with me, and catching it sometimes before my timeline gets it. So we're going to continue to keep you abreast of what's happening, and enjoy your Saturday. We'll see you around.
Okay, so you'll need to share this, and you need to know what the hell is going on, because this is a possible war crime here, okay? Pete Hegseth's reported actions in the Caribbean match the legal definition of a war crime under international law. And here are the facts. The Geneva Conventions require that wounded, shipwrecked, or otherwise incapacitated individuals be spared, protected, and treated humanely. Geneva 2, Articles 3 and 12, make that obligation explicit. The Hague Convention of 1907 forbids no quarter orders and prohibits killing enemies who can no longer fight. Maritime law requires that the safety of survivors be ensured before sinking a vessel. But according to the Washington Post, after the first strike on a suspected drug boat, Hegseth issued a verbal directive.
This is all I got. Excuse me. This is all I got from this video, and I am going to start with something like every other person had said. But there is actually, I wanted to know, this cannot be called a war crime. It cannot be called a war crime. Why am I saying this? I am saying this because there is no war. War has not been declared between United States of America and Venezuela. I don't know if this thing does make sense or not. It might make sense, it might not make sense, but let me still air my opinion, because I should have opinion at this point in time. What United States is committing at this point in time is what? Murder. This is what they are committing. And I want you to see, what do you expect when you change something from the Secretary of Defense to Secretary of War? Is it not the position Pete Hegseth is occupying? A position that is called Secretary of Defense was now turned to Secretary of War, right? And the name is affecting the person handling the position, because this is what I feel. Some things are spiritual, from defense to war. So every day they wake up, they look for a place to launch their stupidity, because so far it is more like United States is acting very ignorant. They wake up any day and they want to invade or do some certain things. Why are they doing this? They think that they are above the law. So far, because you can see how this man, even the head of the government, has gotten away with some certain things that he is supposed to be held accountable for, but he is not being held accountable for it. So his secretary, the Secretary of Defense, is now out there doing his own. How do you give an order to unalive people that do not pose any threat to you? Sometimes, see, I don't know why I am pissed, but I am pissed. Why? Because they have made unaliving people look like it's normal. You wake up, they just take away somebody's life for no reason. Because at this point in time, tell me the reason why he did that. It's stupidity, abuse of power, power mongers. He is abusing power. And that is also one of the reasons why they will fight tooth and nail. They will fight everybody that crosses their way to make sure that they retain that power, because Stephen Bannon has said it where on live television that if their care is not taken, him and the rest of them are going to what? Jail. It might happen. It might not be today, but eventually. Because what they are communicating, that is heinous crime. They are committing crime. And I am going to ask, how do these people sleep at night? How do they sleep at night? Now you and I can see why the head of administration wants to release the former president of Honduras, right? And he is telling them, if you do not vote for this man here, right? Like, why are you throwing in people to vote for someone they do not want to vote? How much were you paid? Like, how much money is this man going to make before he leaves this earth? Because it looks like everybody, like, gosh, I don't want to make this kind of money. I know I want money for myself, like, to take care of myself, go trips and all that. But I don't want this kind of money. I don't want to hurt people to make money. I want to make my money like every normal human being, the way people make money legally. It's not okay. Anybody, if you think this is okay, this is not okay. Going around unaliving people because you are the Secretary of who, or defense or war and all that. They haven't done anything to you. You gave an order straight up. And now I took my time to go around. Holy Spirit. The head of the government is distancing himself from what happened. This week is going to really be a very long week, but let's see. But one thing I want to tell you is that, you see, after this whole administration, they really have a whole lot of work to do. On a serious note, if you know politics, they really do have a lot of work to do to cover up all this evil. but it might not be covered, except they maintain power for the next term and all that. But even if after maintaining power for next term, they will eventually lose the power because all these things are being documented. They will eventually go, all of them will eventually go to jail. Because this is war against human rights, and nobody should ever commit it. When you launch war against human rights, you will lose. You might not lose today, but eventually you will lose. I will draw my curtain here. Bye for now.